Andy, what you got?
Well, you just had a discussion about not being good judges of risk or underestimating risk. I think this would be a great topic for this call to talk about shared responsibility risk around disaster planning. That could be an incident, it could be a hurricane, it could be anything for a customer to understand that there's so much more to this and the coming changes in regulation. For example, with PCI changing on April 1, what other compliance standards are going to be pushed down at the beginning of the year to begin to make help educate our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as and again, I keep harping on this and we'll talk about it today, as long as it starts with the business. And we're going to see the trends that I think a really interesting conversation that I'll need all your help, because I'll just share with you some trends when we get to this section about what's happening up market, because what typically happens, Chip, and for years I've been seeing this 2.5 decades now, is trends happen up market and then typically eventually get down market. And we can see that, by the way, if anybody wants to doubt that, look at what happened really with security starting around 2016. We were nowhere as MSPs other than endpoint management, some email, firewalls. That was security in the MS, right, Cory? That was security for MSPs.
And that was also the height of VARs becoming MSPs.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we started the journey, I would argue, in 2003 when Enable brought Nitro, which then turned into Enable. Started way back then, the initial terminology for MSPs, but it took a while, right? But you're right, like the what really was the crux of MSPs starting to focus on security was the terminology we used when I was helping consult with Perch was Buffalo jump, right? When the threat actors finally figured out, like, hey, the MSPs have this thing called an RMM. So that was 2016, and that's when really everything started to change in our world.
well, even security in general. I mean, I think it was 10 years ago is when anything besides signature-based AVs really started coming to light, right? That's when you started seeing all these newer technologies and newer ways of analyzing security, being smarter, right? That's when all the AI, like, oh, the computers are taking over, started. I mean, in the last 10 years, it's been significant changes, but I mean, 100%, like it always started off with AV. MDR wasn't even a term that people were using, right? It's just, oh, you need an AV. Okay, cool. What AV should I use?
By
Do you
the way,
remember when Splunk was a free open source project
Yep.
that we would just download and run on our networks and try and figure out what the hell to do with it and how to
like,
ingest data and create our own scripts? Look at it now.
yeah, very much like same, Elk and all these. Obviously, Elk doesn't have a, publicly traded company like Splunk or taken over by Cisco. But I'll last anecdotal story. In 2016, I was running security strategy at ConnectWise, and who had really the entire market at their fingertips was Cylance, because they were really the first to market with a really good EDR. And I met with their leadership, and I said, "Is it multi-tenanted?" And they're like, "No, our model is going to be, we're going to work through MSSPs, and the MSPs are going to use the MSSPs." And I'm like, "No, they're not." And then SentinelOne figured out that if you go multi-tenanted, and it's just interesting of this whole journey, right, of the channel, how it's evolved. And anyway, my point simply was things start up market and make their way down, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. So let me share a screen and we'll get out, kick things off. Chip, I'll let you do wins of the week this week, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'm actually going to flip wins of the week over to Ben again, because I'd like for Ben to continue to give us updates about new things that he's seeing, and just how his team's performing. He communicates internally, inside the company about what's going on, and I think some of it is worth sharing weekly on this call, just so we keep track of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, so as far as our wins this week, it's been a lot of the same things that Cory's probably seeing, that same man in the middle attack. We've noticed that there's not been too many updates as far as Evil Gen X, so I think that they have a lot of these token theft has shifted maybe to different software, but that one has been one that we can easily identify. Thanks to them again, appreciate that. And other than that, we've been doing some tests with the dynamic conditional access policy that we kind of mentioned last week, and identify that if we can find the servers that they are connecting to, that is a quick way for them to be pretty much not allowed to sign in. So I tested that out by firing up my own token theft server, adding an IP address to our conditional access, and it was very effective in not even letting that attack actually commit. So we're excited about that.
Ben, with this adversary in the middle, what can you kind of share a little about the TTPs that they're using, how they're doing it and what's different?
Oh yeah, or Cory, if you want to, you're more than welcome. I'll give you guys full credit for pretty much talking about that and bringing that up to everybody else's attention.
I'm going to punt
right.
that to Zach because that's his baby. He never talks in this thing, so I think it's finally time that he talks. So.
Oh, we're gonna actually see Zach. There he is.
Yeah, sometimes I show my camera, but yeah, the biggest thing that we've been seeing is the Axios agent and being able to identify different versions of Axios that this adversary has been using. Notice it changes every now and then to a different version that they're using, but primarily that's been the biggest identifier. There's been a couple IPs or IP ranges that are pretty consistent as well, but the biggest thing is just, yeah, being able to identify that Axios agent in the respond rule and catching a lot of compromises through that. So
is it starting off with phishing, Zach? Where does where's it start and how are they doing it?
yeah, what we've seen and had confirmed from a couple partners is it's basically a phishing email that end user falls for, goes to put in their credentials. Once they put them in, from what I've seen from a couple partners, is that's where the Axios agent jumps in, grabs the credentials and uses them to get access to the account, and from there they've got access. So
interesting.
Even seen a couple of the specific phishing that was used is relating to invoicing, financial type PDFs, things like that, that pretty common for phishing. So
are they spear phishing usually? And do they get or just domain lookalike type stuff? Are you saying?
yeah, I don't think they're specifically spear phishing, just more generalized.
Okay. Got it. Oh, cool. Is that then you just put the URL in? Is that the one that they're covering it as well?
Yep, that's covers a lot of the internet providers already been using. It's been pretty consistent, which is kind of surprising that it's kind of went on for this long. I don't know you, Zach, but like if I was an internet provider and being identified as a token theft, I would probably be shutting that down, but it's still going.
I think we saw a decline in like was a 2 or 3 week period.
Yeah.
And then it resurged. It's back.
Yeah.
New
Like
version.
we had one as recent as today that we alerted on.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, we stopped like 3 or 4 of them on one like couple Fridays ago. I'm like, it's going up pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
That's good. So Ben, Andy's asking about, some type of, honeypot, or, I'm brain dead today.
How about if I say it? How about because of these dynamic IPs having a honeypot to help determine where they're coming from and flag them?
Well, Andy, we actually have something more effective than a honeypot. We have 35,000 different Microsoft tenants that we're monitoring minute by minute, and we see all of that activity. You could almost.
So you have a virtual honeypot, is what I just heard you say.
Well, we do, but I mean, look, the purpose of a honeypot, right, is to put something out that is relatively unprotected that's going to attract the bees, right?
Yep.
The hackers. I would probably get in trouble for saying this if I lived closer to Redmond, but Microsoft 365, but its very architecture is a gigantic honeypot.
Yes, it is.
And we're all using it as a live experiment. And it's the reason that we all exist. It's a reason why Solutions Granted is out there. It's a reason why we built products for you guys and MSSPs to use. There's so much activity, and that's where Ben is getting the intelligence from, this wide breadth of people that we're covering and data that we're seeing.
What I'm hoping to have you guys take to marketing efforts is after you've got a run rate of Ben's, the dynamic IP and how you're using this data, that you're now actually more attuned and able to respond to security opportunity or events much more rapidly. And that adds even more value to SaaS Alerts. And helping us
absolutely.
communicate this to our customers and prospective customers, I think this would be amazing.
Well, this is part of what we went over last week, with Amanda reviewing the new functionality that's coming to Fortify, and our ability to also bring the known bad IPs into whitelisting 2.0, helping you guys use the automation in our tools to both set policy at the Microsoft and Google level, and to set respond rules that if people don't set policy or somehow attackers get around it, it can help pick it up. So, Enrique, do you have a win of the week? Is that what your hand is
That's
up?
right there.
Were you going to update us on one of your previous ones?
No, I do have a new win of the week, and it's in a totally different realm. We got finally, well, not finally, that was my delay. So finally is a bad word. We got onboarded with Managed SaaS Alerts, and it's, maybe I'm just going crazy, not sleeping, but it's a totally different service. The tickets I'm getting, very clear, very precise. I don't know if you guys are interpreting what I usually cannot read, which is Microsoft gibber stuff. I feel so comfortable. It's like it's a 24/7 managed stock, which I know it's not. We have that with Rocket Cyber and the other tools, Blackpoint, but just these, it took it to a whole new level. It made me, I mean, I love SaaS Alerts. I think it's the best tool we have in the tool stack, but this just, it's wowing me.
Best tool in the tool stack. That's a pretty good quote.
SaaS Alerts for me, it is. It's the only one that I can tell someone they'll stop it. Maybe not at minute 1, maybe at minute 15, but we'll stop it. Everyone else, you're not stopping much once they get in. But yeah, congratulations, Ben team, and not just Ben and the team, the whole architecture behind designing it, the tickets. Maybe I'm just happy because I'm getting tickets from Autotask now. I'm on the receiving side now as an end user. It's just, it wows me. I'm really impressed. I could tell you, I'm not going to say I sleep better at night because I do not sleep, but I feel more comfortable at night. Let's say that.
So
that's a great comment, Enrique, and certainly appreciate you sharing the kudos with Ben and the team. Those guys are working hard.
That's a big win for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Amy, there's a campaign there. Reduce your Ambien intake with SaaS Alerts.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm all
I
over
like
it.
that.
Yeah, I think there's something.
Or MSPs.
There you go. Who else got some wins? Anyone else dealing with this adversarially in the middle? Anybody thwarting anything this week that you want to share?
Gonna be a Debbie Downer.
Oh, we did stop another one. That same customer we stopped last week, we stopped over the weekend with SaaS Alerts with a different mailbox.
Awesome.
Yes,
Cory,
Cory, you can be a
you said-
Debbie Downer.
Oh, Debbie Downer. Everyone's so happy. Go ahead.
Here comes Eeyore.
It's more like Piglet at the moment with all the anxiety.
I got a honeypot for you, Eeyore.
Fortunately, it's not SaaS, but since I have ears of multiple MSPs on this call, we've had to deal with 2 live compromises this week alone, where, again, kudos when you don't use an Excel spreadsheet to store your password, but if you're using password managers like LastPass, please, for the love of God, go in there and validate that you have security features behind it. At a minimum, you should be setting it to 2 hours of inactivity on the computer logs you out of the LastPass, or it logs you out of the password manager, whatever one you're using. When all browsers are closed, it logs you out of the password manager. Both of these incidents that I'm referring to, the computer that was compromised had LastPass on it. It was logged in. So what does that give the adversary? It gives them access to anything that's in there, to include your customer's data.
Wow. So were these MSP partners of yours, Cory?
These were customers in this situation this week. So we have had MSPs where, trying to be politically correct, the owner of the MSP was storing passwords in his browser. Worst place to ever store your passwords. Never store passwords in your browser. Easiest thing. That's part of their playbook is stealing your, exporting that, and boom, there you go. Did not have MFA enabled on his antivirus portal. So they looked through his history, saw what antivirus he was using, logged in as him, changed policies for every single customer, then deleted every single device out of the antivirus portal, and then went about doing their thing. So please, advisory, if you're using a password manager, you're doing the right thing, but please set up and look at security features behind it so that if someone does get on your endpoint, it's not just an open resource for them to have access to everything. Yes, you might have MFA, but I guarantee you don't have MFA on every single thing. Most don't, right? Some portals don't.
This is a great PSA. It really is. I wouldn't have thought of that. Thank you.
A great public service announcement, you mean?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, I'm sorry. I shouldn't use acronyms. I should say this is
well,
terrific.
It's just that PSA means something else to so many MSP people.
Fair enough.
Cory, what about have you seen the iteration settings too, and how it started out? It used to be like 1,000, and now they're saying it has to be up to 300,000 or something. Just the amount of times it encrypts the same file over and over again, or password.
Oh, I haven't dove into that.
Yeah.
My concern for the industry is still the basics.
Yeah.
I still
that seems to be enough.
I still heavily preach the basics, because I think I talked about this last time we called. So I'm sorry for getting on my soapbox again. This is the thing that we're all missing. We're getting too comfortable in tools that are out there that we're skipping the basics. We're assuming everything is doing everything for us, and we're not doing the simplest things like patching, like setting up, I always tell everybody, if you have a domain, you should have at least 3 accounts. If you're an admin in an environment, it should be no less than 3. Microsoft will tell you 4. Using password managers, but putting basic security behind that, using MFA, not having open RDP, right? I mean, there's so many basic things that we could all be doing that's completely free that we forget about.
What about guest Wi-Fi is on the same network as your main network? I have a question for you, Cory. So what is your thoughts on people that store their MFA tokens in the same place as their password manager? You know how IT Glue and LastPass, that you can put your secret code in there and just store it all in that one thing.
You have to leverage usability with security. That's better than storing it in other places. I myself am difficult. I don't even copy those codes down. If I have an issue getting in, I'll just open a support ticket and just deal with it. I never copy those codes down. You're talking about the backup codes, right?
No, the actual the one-time password codes,
Oh, I got you. I don't use those. That's
okay.
You can actually store those in there. I like the granularity of having separation. It's just how I function. I understand it adds more overhead, but again, it's how I function. I love granularity because it helps keep me sane and safe.
Yeah.
But I understand that, and I adapt to it.
Speaking of just real quick, quick pivot, Chad put something in there, or who was it about guest Wi-Fi? And then someone put something there about guest Wi-Fi. Where was it?
Scroll up. I saw it too.
Yeah. So then, Chip, I found this article where Defender, at least in their home versions, and I asked Chip to look into this because of their integrations with Defender. But it's really interesting that they're invoking a VPN of sorts for if they notice public Wi-Fi. It's kind of interesting what they're doing. Chip, what are your thoughts on it? Do you like what they're doing?
Well, that's half of what I read, Andrew. The other thing I saw is that they're going to flag what they consider risky VPNs. So I'm less clear on what denotes a risky VPN. I have noticed, so I use Proton as my VPN. And I have noticed increasingly that there are some legitimate sites that I can no longer connect to if I'm using a VPN connection. I've seen it occasionally. I haven't seen it so much that I've started logging it, but I'm actually going to start logging it now, just try and understand what's going on.
Well, wouldn't you potentially feel that, like, so one, I could see why, let's just throw out a few use cases here. If you're a media provider, right? I know, like, for example, or a betting provider. Here's a great example. My son, as I loves sports betting. However, in Florida, if you live in Florida, you have to use Hard Rock. It's the only legalized betting. However, if he uses a VPN, and puts himself in Vegas, he can now all of a sudden, use MGM or something like that. So I'm wondering, A, is it things like that, Chip? Is it things like also threat actors, using VPNs, a culmination of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of confusion about there. The one website that I frequently go to that I see it the most is actually the Wall Street Journal. And what's really odd about it is if I go to the website using, the browser that I use regularly, which is Brave, it won't let me log in if I'm using the VPN. If on the same VPN on my iPhone or on my tablet, I use the Wall Street Journal app and I have no problem. So, it's some weird behaviors like that I'm noticing, but I can definitely see legitimate use cases. So for instance, let's say you're an enterprise and, perhaps you have an enterprise VPN that you want everyone to use, but you see somebody using a different VPN. They're trying to sidestep the enterprise VPN because they don't want their traffic seen by IT or whatever it is. You hear the radio advertisements or the I don't listen to the radio, podcast advertisements for all kinds of VPN products, and that's one of their lines is like, step sideways so that no one, including your employer, can even see you, that sort of language. So I can see the utility for Microsoft allowing, configuration on Defender for Endpoint that if it notices a VPN that isn't authorized, that it's going to throw a caution flag, right? It's going to throw an alert. We haven't on our side looked into how that's going to function and whether or not that's something that we can pick up out of Defender Endpoint. But you sent me that article, and I can guarantee you we're going to get Adam looking into it.
Cool. And Cory, to your point, just made me think about, people's, what's your take on browser security and tools that we're going to need there more so, Cory, because info stealers, right? That, you sit there and say, yeah, don't put passwords in browsers, but we know our end users are doing it and that's, where info stealers come in and just have a field day taking all that data. What's your take on that? The need
in the bigger picture of security stack, right?
Yeah.
And looking at, I mean, it's kind of an add-on, right? I always look at my security stack as a triangle, right? You have your 3 points that you always have to have, and you can start filling in the middle as your budget allows you to, or your customer's budget allows you to, right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, a lot of these, even MDR solutions are integrating browser security into them. Not all of them do, but a lot of them already have that level of integration. Is it going to be better than just a dedicated tool that's all they focus on? No. But in the bigger, again, I have to look at the bigger scheme of things, right? Of what you're going to recommend, plus you also got your firewall, right? I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, but obviously it's not encrypting that layer of encryption like Ben was talking about when it comes to, I don't know. I typically don't talk about tools that help protect your browser like that. I typically rely on what's already existing that is a, more of a compensating control that can give you the best bang for your buck on it.
Okay, fair. Very cool. All right. Miss Amy, You want to take it away with the monthly newsletter and the partner? Oh, Enrique, did you have another thing? You have your hand up.
Yes, had a hard time getting my hand up there, but wouldn't recognize it. Going back to Microsoft, I don't know if anybody's noticed when we're using our SASE agent, multiple different SASE vendors in the partner center. When I try to go add GDAP permissions or GDAP roles and save, I get in, I can add them. When I go to save them, it will not allow me to save them. I have to disconnect from my SASE solution and then it'll allow me to save them. Refresh the browser, reconfigure them, and save them. So they are doing something on their side to detect and block somehow.
Got it.
All right, you ready for me?
Always ready for you.
Okay.
I didn't call you Michelle, so it's
There we
even
go. I know, right? We're making so much progress.
tons.
So for those of you who did not see this in your inbox last week, this is the monthly newsletter from September. So most of you know we introduced the new EU data center. If you're interested, contact your account manager for details. We have a new SaaS security checklist that you can download. I can share the link. There's no form here. We're just giving you the checklist. It's very cool. There's also a link to the ultimate guide for SaaS security within it. We've got some videos from Ben, Mastering Quiet Mode. So if you're struggling with onboarding or, just haven't had a chance to tune down some of the noise that's coming through, Ben has some tips to help you do that. We have our All Stars event next week. There's still time to register if you're interested. Ryan will be speaking. It's a really big event, virtual, 4 or 5 hours, lots of speakers, lots of panels. All kinds of platform enhancements, thanks to our amazing product team. A partner quote of the month that comes from Kamal out of Sydney Cloud IT over in Australia. He says, you guys are creating a beast. There is no way this would not be included in my stack ever. So I doubt Kamal's on the call because it's, I think, 1:30 in the morning there. But thank you to Kamal if he ever listens to this. And then our partner of the month, Stufflebeam Technologies. I don't know if you guys, Robert Stufflebeam, he goes by Stuffy, I believe. Really amazing guy, really amazing partner, big proponent of SaaS alerts. And I don't think his team typically joins the calls, but hopefully they can join one soon. And that's it. If anyone wants any links, any more information, it should be in your inbox. So go do a little search for SaaS alerts. And otherwise, hit me up and I can send you anything you need.
Just curious, Amy, what stood out for them to become partner of the month? Just so folks on the call that may not have gotten partner of the month yet,
So they've helped us a lot of events, bringing people over to the booth and introducing us to other MSPs who don't have a tool like SaaS Alerts in place. So they've just done a lot of that at events, a lot of SaaS Alerts. I hate to call it prospecting, but referrals for us.
Okay.
They're helping spread the love.
Yes, they are.
Down under.
Cory, Cory wants to win that award.
Andy.
So funny, Cory. All right. Let me get the PowerPoint up and okay. So here's do you guys mind me sharing it in this mode or do you guys mind? It allows me to look at notes and send URLs. Is this okay with you all?
It works for me.
Okay. I know at one point
but I'm not the center of the universe, Andrew.
Well, you are today. We'll go with your answer. All right. So remember I was saying about trends, and this is where I really love your input, right? This again is going to be really dependent on how you guys feel about this. I'll set the stage and what the trends are, and where I'm seeing these trends and where they're being written. But I saw this following we did the business. Did anybody attend the BIA workshop? Business Impact Assessment Workshop we did. And if you didn't, I'm happy to share the URL. We had 3 CISOs on. It was really well done with Ryan Weeks, Brian Blakely, and Jerry Craig of Intiva. Following that, I was visiting, some websites of partners, and And I saw this and it just struck me. I thought it was such a great quote on an MSP's website. And that, certification show competency, but without certain, solid business skills, they're useless. Cory, I see you chuckling. Is that at this by chance?
Yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah, right. And this is where I think a lot of us historically, we talk a lot about this on the cyber call, Cory, that the role of the MSP, granted, we need solid foundational, IT and security skill sets, but we're seeing a dramatic shift, and I'm about to go into these trends where the MSP has got to start changing how the interactions with their customers are going if they are going to get the investment that they need to protect that customer. Thoughts on that, Cory?
Yeah. I mean, so I used to have a requirement for everyone I hire. They have to have at least a security plus, right? And then there's always been, I'll take the education part out of it, but things are changing. I've interviewed so many people over my career that a lot of these certifications are just becoming a memorizing of questions and answers, passing it at the minimum score and moving on and thinking, hey, you're ready. I got my certification. I used to take all these certifications as a kind of a competition with myself, right? I was kind of like, oh, I want every Microsoft certification, everything I can take, let me do it, right? It doesn't show competency whatsoever. And I see marketing by even some of our competitors, right? They're like, oh, all of our analysts or all of our engineers are this and this certified. And then like I've been on calls with these people. And it's like, it doesn't speak to where they're at in their career, and there's huge skill gaps. And the false pretenses of what these certifications are showing that these people have just don't do it. That's why I've always liked, I prefer more prac app type certifications, which are still few and far between. I look at, in the past, like you look at Cisco's, it was always harder to get a CCNA because there's a lot of prac app involved compared to like a Microsoft certification. And again, I 100% relate to this because I just see it out there. Like so many people, so many resumes have all of these certifications, but they don't have a single day, even in college, even in secondary education, and they haven't ever been in this industry. But they're banking off their Security Plus or their CEH, right? Is going to get them in the door, and I'm a cybersecurity expert.
Yeah, very, very good. So I came across a really interesting article, call it white paper. And I wanted to share some of these with you and get your thoughts. And this one's where it starts off for me, and it's that, think about this. In 2027. Now, again, this is Gartner. So they're looking at enterprise, right? Upper mid-market and enterprise. But as I shared, remember, what happens up market comes down market. And this is where I'd like your input, right? If 75% of employees will acquire, modify, or create technology, basically decisions and use outside of IT's visibility, what does that mean for us as MSPs? Right. So think about that, and we're going to see here the trends of business leaders, decision makers, people that drive the business are making the decisions. And Chip, I mean, true or false, right? SaaS and the way we consume data and applications these days has made this possible. We no longer, air quoting, we don't need IT the way we used to, right? We can circumvent it very easily.
Sure. I mean, that's over the past, 6-7 years, the term shadow IT has become commonplace. Products have been developed just to notice it and search it, including ours, by the way. We track OAuth integrations that people use, and those are all shadow IT. People just jump on their thing. So it's definitely a problem. I don't know how Gartner comes up with their number on 75%. To me, the Gartner type agencies have a way of throwing a dart at the wall, and if it makes a good sounding number, it'll work. I could actually see it being even worse than that, because of AI. Just a little anecdote, just for the fun of it. I was last weekend out at my brother-in-law's in Ohio. He's an electrical engineer, PhD, absolute genius, can code in anything. And we had a little coding contest, but we were each using our preferred AI for coding. He was using Chat GPT and I was using Grok, and we were spinning up code segments just by describing what we wanted a function to do, and then actually running them and seeing, which performed better. The point is, anybody that has a problem that they want to solve, and let's say it's a nefarious employee inside an organization that knows absolutely nothing about IT or PowerShell, can jump on really any of a half dozen different AIs today and ask them to write a PowerShell script to help them do something on their computer or on their network or on a server. They can get, feedback from an AI system on what a hacker would do to try and compromise credentials. This is almost back to the certification piece that you just had before. You can ask the internet to do anything if you know how to ask questions well. And really, that's what AI has become, is the ultimate search engine. The term prompt has become popular. You have to become a great prompter in order to use the tools. It's a fancy way of saying, do you know how to form good questions? That's really all it is. And people are going to learn those skills, and it's going to challenge us as security providers to deal with the backlash, the outcome, consequences of that change. I think it's made a lot easier for employees to acquire, modify, or create than ever before. The universe of who we have to look out for is going to expand from the highly technical people to a couple of rungs out.
Well, what I want to point out here too, Chip, is how as MSPs, the conversations we're having with our prospects and customers. Like when we think about, we've talked on this call about the challenger sale and commercial insights, right? And being able to bring, trends and information to our clients that they may not be thinking about, and how this could impact them, right? From a policy perspective, right? How are you going to address, are you going, are you allowing this to happen in your company? Do you want this to happen in your company? Not articulating it brilliantly right now in terms of the sales conversation, but this is kind of a really important shift that's really occurring right now, that, you could either lead how that company sets policy around all their consumption of IT, right? Or you can be a laggard and try to, do a whack-a-mole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting how this call is going, because we're weaving together a couple of themes and they all point back to the same thing, which is planning and risk and evaluating what you're going to do to manage that planning and risk. The propensity for, the challenger sale is an education sale, right?
Yep.
And the propensity for the customer is to reject some of the things you're trying to educate them about. And back to your point about disaster and risk planning. Oh, it's not going to happen to us. We're only a 20-person company. I know every employee personally. No one would ever do anything like that. We don't have to, everyone's going to follow our policies to the letter of the law. It all flows right back into, these are intertwining themes that you're presenting today. I don't know if you did that intentionally, but they do all just flow right back into the same thing.
Yeah. No, sometimes you just get lucky. But this is the next theme here, Chip, and everyone, is that, and again, it kind of delves into what they're saying, that, again, where's your relationships with your customers? That's first and foremost, and do you have, multiple people in your MSP? Do you guys have those relationships? A lot of times they're not at the very top, and I would challenge you all that they have to start becoming at the very top of the organization. Not only, just because of the shift in how decisions are being made, as this one speaks to right here, that, centralized IT, right, is getting thwarted by business. And and so if we know that that is the case, you know, we want to make sure that we're helping guide those conversations with those, you know, decision makers. So
I find the last sentence in that slide really interesting. Nearly half of CIOs say that cybersecurity risk mitigation is hindering digital execution. So another way of putting that is CIOs are fighting with CISOs, right? And really everyone on this call, everyone that's an MSP that's security conscious is effectively a CISO for their customer. That's what they are. And as we're talking all this through, what, you know, occurs to me, if you go back to the Gartner slide, is one of the potential outcomes here, and somebody in the chat mentioned this earlier, that security is always a balance between accessibility and usability, right? Between keeping things secure, keeping them tight, and keeping them easy enough for people to use. And if all these predictions are pointing to the same place, you know, I would predict that people in frontline knowledge workers are going to have to get accustomed to having less access or less easy access to the things that they want to have access to.
well, you'll see one of the I'll get to one of the slides. You'll like what I put as the title. But Chip, like you said, everything's kind of flowing together. Look what literally what you just said a few moments ago, right? These tools are allowing and shaping, right, how business processes are taking place, right? People that have access, you know, because it's ubiquitous access, it's really changing who has, you know, who has power, who can do certain things. And again, you know, the whole intent today is, again, to look at these trends and go, what as MSPs should we be doing in our customers, in our VCIO conversations, in our early onboarding conversations to set the stage, in our MSAs, really important, right? About what you're signing up for, what the customer's signing up for. In interest of time, I'll go through a few more. This is why, Chip, here's my title based on your earlier comment. You know, you wonder, right? And Cory put, you know, out there with all the, you know, clicking and, you know, things that we keep missing the basics. You know, I got to wonder, Chip, will dumb term, you know, what's old is new, right? Could dumb terminals make a comeback with all the things we have going on here? And from a threat perspective,
What's a Chromebook?
Yeah.
You know, the question is, I would even extend this further. Will green screens make a comeback?
Yeah, right,
You
right,
know,
right.
I think in the world of SaaS applications, everything is a dumb terminal, if you think about it. I mean, there's almost no applications that I execute on my local machine. There are no business applications that I execute from my local machine. So I can use a Chromebook, I can use a Windows device, I can use my tablet, my phone. Obviously, you guys all know I'm a Mac user. I still write code, but that's for fun. And that's the stuff I run on my machine for investment tracking and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But everything is a dumb terminal already, in a sense. I think the deeper question here is, to maintain security, will we go even farther back in time?
Yeah, that better said, Chip. But I mean, think about the statement that 93% of respondents acknowledge that they knew their actions would increase cybersecurity risks to organizations, and they did it anyway. Like, that's why I'm wondering, like, are we going to have to go to a, you know, to your point, to a green screen? Are we going to have to, you know, get to the point where to really, you know, minimize the ability for anything on that device to be attacked?
Yeah, I don't know. This is making me think about some things I've never thought about before. Like, a question that's running through my head is, if I were an MSP, would I be counseling my customers that they should be actively blocking, either port blocking or firewall blocking or otherwise, access to the AI tools that are out there? Like, do you really want anybody just sitting down at their regular Windows workstation in your environment being able to plop out to their ChatGPT account and go to town?
But bigger question there, Chip and Andy, I see your hand, right? And this is where the B and the BIA comes in, right? Who are the knowledge workers that have access to critical sensitive data that could then go right to those tools, plug information in, or, the way Copilot can work today,
Yep.
there's a team meeting. Give me so yeah, it's really fascinating. Andy.
Yeah, what I was attempting to raise here is that we have to communicate this information very effectively to our customers, because AI, I don't think you can block it, because what's to stop me from going home and prompting at my house when I don't have a block and getting the information and bringing it in if it's a
Yeah,
PowerShell or something else.
absolutely.
So, I mean, it doesn't take much creativity, especially if I know intimately the details of the business. I could just be, I'm hard up, it's a recession's coming, right? And I'm not making enough money to pay all my notes. I need to find a way to get something from my business or from the business I work for. There's opportunity is what's going to be changing here. And how in the heck do you do all these things except to have, and you can't really have a dumb terminal because everything's app based. You're going to have an app-based Chromebook. The device that we work from is vulnerable to infecting everything else.
No
It's-
doubt.
it's-
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a fascinating challenge. I mean, I wonder, we've talked about this in the past. I wonder how many folks on this call have actually gone to other customers and either hand fed them or counseled them to have an AI policy for the business.
Yeah.
I mean, just to cover your butt from a legal standpoint, at least if somebody does something wrong, they violated, a company policy and misusing information. I had this conversation with my wife 2 nights ago because her boss asked her to go out and use ChatGPT to put together 3 different reports, and combine them into one and do it that way to save time. And I asked her, do you guys have an actual AI written policy? And the answer was she didn't know.
Yeah. And I would argue that that's the majority of the answers you're going to get. If every MSP polled their customers, that's probably the lion's share of the answers. So with 1 minute left, I thought this slide was really impactful, right? And I highlighted over and over business, business and like who's making the decision, business drivers, business outcomes. Our role as the MSP, like hands down, the decision, the questions, the decisions, the way in which we want to start our relationships with our clients have got to be way above IT and security. It's IT and security obviously is the byproduct of what we deliver, but it's about their business. And that's how and who are making the decisions and what applications they use. Again, that's why I started off with just showing the relationship of where it's shifting from decision makers from IT to decision makers. And lastly, this shift left, right? This kind of brings it all home of where we as MSPs need to be having conversations, right? To change our security behavior, right? If we really want to change security behavior in our customers, this is where we need to be front and center. So I thought that was I thought these last 2 slides were really cool in this thing I saw. Like I said, white paper I found. So
it's a good deck. Hope you share that one with everyone.
This one I won't, Chip. No, this is proprietary. Yeah, I'll send it.
I was going to ask for references for your article so that we could capture them.
Yeah, I'll send it to Amy right now.
Yeah, pass it over. We'll get it posted onto the Discord server. If you're not on Discord, now's the time to join.
Fantastic. Enrique, did you get my answer? By the way, I posted something to you in chat. I emailed you back. Did that make it?
I did get it, and then I went to look and see what I was going to decide for. And next thing I know, it was the following day. So then I said, I'm no longer in a hurry because the code is gone. So
shoot me an email.
yeah, I will. But I think there's some good in both. It's like,
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I
No
have to
doubt.
know what hat to wear.
Fair enough. All right, everybody. Have an awesome week and great talking to everybody.
You as well.
Thank
Bye,
you guys.
guys.
Be safe.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.